My dear friends, providence of God is brought us together in a moment in time which is a pause. Advent, by its very nature, is a moment of waiting and anticipation, working on two levels, the immediate and the long term. It's also, as it happens, the feast day of a very great saint, St. Francis Xavier. I'll just start by reflecting for a few seconds on the way that Providence used that man, quite unexpectedly really. You probably know the story. He was from the area of Pamplona, I believe, in Spain, and he found his way to a great centre of learning as a young man, Paris. Well, by that time, another Spaniard had been worked upon by grace, rather unexpectedly also in his case, but more dramatically insofar as he had been a great soldier and wounded in a war. And he was there, healing slowly in this place with nothing to do. Any books in this place? Well, there happened to be a couple. One was the life of our Lord, and the other was a volume of the life of saints. So as he got into this, he was suddenly warmed by seeing the effect of grace. He had been inspired by great army figures, heroes of battle until then, but then he started to think, if I should perhaps be like St. Francis or St. Dominic, maybe I could do more useful things with my fragile time on earth. And he perceived that reactions were leading to perceptions, and that became the basis of Ignatian discernment of spirits, of vocation essentially, the reaction of the soul to the workings of the spirit. One listens, and direction, spiritual direction involves that, listening to what the spirit is doing inside someone else. Well, the other one found this man there studying hard, because he'd had to start fairly late in these serious studies, Ignatius, and so he was catching up on lost time. And he realized that this man had a profound conversion, was dynamite. So he drifted towards him, as did a few others. So that was embryonically powerful, but could have gone in many, many ways. Indeed, their intuition was to go in a direction which would have led them outside Italy. They were going to go to essentially missionary work. It was the time when, of course, Spain was conquering the conquistadores, as was Portugal, and that also was a favorable time to go with them and conquer for Christ. But initially, it wasn't going to work. They were ready to go. They got together in Venice, great maritime city, and a crossroads for all places on earth. But even though they got as far as being ordained there, they couldn't go any further against their own human plan, for the simple reason that the weather was just too rough and it wasn't happening. So they thought, maybe Providence is saying something here. Let's give ourselves directly to Christ through giving ourselves directly to his vicar on earth. And they went to Rome and did just that, which made them the Pope's own order, maintained by the process of selecting superiors from those who have the second novitiate further on and the fourth vow. Only the superiors. It's the vow of obedience directly to the Holy Father, which after the Second Vatican Council was put in jeopardy, but was maintained by the direct will of the Supreme Pontiff. John Paul II was very aware of the importance of this order. It was maintained. So it became the most numerous of all orders, reaching 35,000 some years ago, and was extremely powerful in going anywhere. The reason was this. They shared all which might have hampered complete availability. All the structure was cracked, and they deferred major orders as far as possible which also deferred the obligation of the still very heavy breviary, which was very heavy, as you know, until 1969. Well, that made them very much able to study for about 14 years, and they became great brains. But because they had shed all the outside, the external structure, choir, all the monastic life, they had to find something to take its place, and they worked on the will. So, the discipline of the obligation of 1 hour of mental prayer was there, and a very, very severe novitiate of 2 years in which they worked on the will in such a way, already having had 30 days of complete sacrifice of the will in the nation retreat of discernment, they then went further and in some way made it possible that total availability to Christ and his will happened through ceasing to exist on the level of the will. It meant espousing also the reason behind, not just the physical execution. Therefore, they did not exist on the level of the will. It's a very profound discipline. And at the end of 2 years of novitiate, they had vows for life. It was that which worked, and they maintained it. So then, having worked on the interior, they were able to face any unexpected exterior, rather like a well-prepared and stoked torpedo that could be fired from a submarine in any direction whatsoever without any resistance. Therefore, give that to the Holy Father, you've got a huge army. And it worked. It was so powerful that it conquered whole areas of mission lands to Christ. So, in that optic, one understands how in the second time, not in the first human devised intuition they had, they were able then also to go all over the New World with missions. And this particular saint was a phenomenon of fruitfulness in missionary work. It was only about 10 years he was given because of the eventual jeopardizing of his health. He died of fever. But he did a huge amount of work. Indonesia, India, Japan, Borneo, and he was about to enter the mainland of China when he died of fever on an island opposite. So it ended there. The life of grace carried on, and you can see how he was actually hugely powerful in the hands of the Lord. And how many people he baptized with, no idea. His right hand is there in Rome. As a young student, a young priest, I would often celebrate in these churches in the hours of the morning. One of them, on the first Friday of the month, I like going to the Church of the Jesuits, a very important church of the Jesuits in the heart of Rome, where you've got the hand of Francis Xavier in a large reliquary on the wall. And on the altar when I used to celebrate, you have the original picture of the Sacred Heart, the one that's gone around the whole world, which all of you know. It came from there. And of course, they were the ones who diffused it because their great saint, Claude Lacombière, who is now a canonized saint, was the director of the hidden Margaret Mary Alacoque. So he was the one who got it around, seeing again how providence works. So that was how the Lord used this great army, which, by the way, was important in England in Reformation, a huge underground network of very, very brave Jesuits carried on the life of faith and grace in hostile England for a good while. And they were tortured and racked. No details, because one of them survived, Father Gerard, and wrote his diary. It's very, very moving. He was tortured. And he knows and says exactly what it was and what went on underground. Extremely interesting testimony. And he managed to celebrate sacred mysteries in the Tower of London. And that meant getting all the equipment in ultra secret, only a few meters from the torture chamber where they were being racked for doing so, with manned limbs, of course. This was what the Eucharist meant to them. So, in the context of Advent, that makes sense, because it was the advent of grace to whole areas of the world. In Rome, I was living with missionaries. It was, as it happens, a missionary college I was living in for a while, Merino, and they were very much aware of what mission was. They had stories, fascinating stories of what grace does. The first evangelization is head-on. It's arm-to-arm combat with the forces of darkness who do not wish to relinquish their hold. Because when, in the first wave of evangelization, when it was coming in, there's a cosmic battle going on between the powers of darkness, which have owned all these huge areas, through witchcraft, sorcery, all that goes with it, curses, things that work, unfortunately, against the coming of healing grace and light. Therefore, it's a huge battle. And I remember the prior lector was by then a senior priest in all his life to Africa, explaining down there it's not the same as in Rome. Here in Italy we've got priests everywhere, which means you've got a sacramental grace, you've got the holy sacrifice all over the place. It's not the same down there, especially the first wave of evangelization. It's huge areas without grace. It's thick, thick darkness. And of course that's what only once again in Europe, in Ireland especially, not careful again, we don't wake up. So this is therefore the coming of healing grace. And we must remember that the incarnation is about that. There was already the pedagogy of hundreds, in fact thousands of years really, when bit by bit one chunk of humanity was being set apart as the fertile ground that should happen. Because the Lord, when he came, did not have to start at ground zero. It's a whole conquest of a great chunk of humanity that there was a part prepared with correct revelation, because it was correct to that point. The given faith that we have is shared with our brethren, the Jews. Ours has gone on, and theirs is stuck at that point. The Lord took on board what was there prepared by the Holy Ghost. So this is therefore already the work of the Holy Spirit. What happens? It changes the explosion of the night of Christmas. Et verbum caro factum est, which still in the Old Bible kneels at, and one still kneels at with the Angelus in Ireland. It's ancient practice, and it's also something which is precious to God. Why? Well, the very flesh that we have honors it, because we're not just mind. We are mind and body. That is one difference that we have between ourselves and Protestants. We pray with the whole person. So the Lord took it on, all of it, on board. I want to zoom into this for a second, because the incarnation has consequences for us here, right now. As I said, our faith is different from that of Protestant brethren, which resembles in some sense the Jews insofar they only have Scripture. We have Christ present. That has consequences. Our faith is essentially Eucharistic, and our practice must also be centered thereon. So I just want to conclude with one or two quotes here to help us to focus on the double meaning. First of all, the advent of Christ here in time, and then the advent, the end of time. It's the same reality. And therefore we must be careful that although we cannot see the King of Kings and Lord of Lords, it is the same one. And therefore the way that we see him is going to come back to us when one day we will see him face to face in all his glory. And he will ask us how we treated him, because we have more than Protestant brethren. And if we become real Protestants, we take away all the trimmings, we've got it wrong. We've actually succeeded in robbing the Lord of his rights and his glory. So I just come back to finish here with one or two quotes of those who understood what it meant. I mentioned the sacrifice of these martyrs in the town of London, who really would do anything to celebrate again, but also it applies to any soul in love with Christ. We cannot not give him the maximum. There he gives himself without defense. He has no defense but us. He raised up over the centuries great saints who did nothing but that. The likes of the found with the Sacrament Fathers, St. Peter Julian Aymar. He has wonderful words. I've often thought about the remedies for this universal indifference which holds so many Catholics in its appalling grip. And I find only one: love of the Eucharistic Jesus. The loss of faith comes from the loss of love. We must save souls by the divine Eucharist and waken the nations benumbed in a sleep of indifference, because they do not know the gift of God, Jesus, the Eucharistic Emmanuel. It is the touch of love that we must carry to lukewarm souls. So, civilization develops or declines according to its devotion to the divine Eucharist. This is the life and the measure of its faith, charity and virtue. We can't, for instance, think the Protestants have more and feel we have needs to use their methods like the Alpha Course when we have the very essence ourselves. I mentioned Margaret Mary Alacoque. Well, the whole of her life essentially was that of reparation, precisely to that Lord who complained and showed how his heart was hurting because of the indifference and coldness of souls. Where? Most of all, in the Blessed Sacrament. So this is the way that we must honor Christ at Christmas. He is here, the same, at Verbum Caro Factum Est, and every Mass was Christmas. Venerable Marie-Thérèse of the Heart of Jesus saw this one time in a vision. I saw a new people arise. What I saw above all was the glory they gave to God by communicating the life of our Lord Jesus Christ in the Blessed Sacrament. I saw this people always kneeling at the foot of the Eucharistic throne, and the priests of this order spreading divine love in every heart. Jesus said, "For my great harvest I need very numerous workers of my priesthood. I need these," and this expression is curious, "monstrans and ciborium priests of my renewed priesthood, to show the sacred host and distribute the bread of life. That is when there shall appear from east to west, from north to south, the generations of living hosts of my totally extraordinary reign of peace."